Let's talk about awakening. One of the most common questions I get is, how do I awaken? And whenever people ask me that question, I always wonder what they think awakening actually is. Because many people believe awakening means seeing spirits, hearing voices, having visions, receiving messages, or suddenly becoming spiritually powerful. But awakening is much deeper than that. In fact, many people who think they are awakened are still asleep to themselves. Let me explain. Awakening is simply becoming aware. Hmm? It is becoming aware of yourself, your life, your patterns, your purpose, your strengths, your weaknesses, and lessons life keep teaching you. Lessons that life wants you to understand about yourself. Before you awaken spiritually, you usually awaken mentally and emotionally first. What I mean is that you begin to notice things you never paid attention to before. Okay, you begin to question things around you. You begin to ask yourself why certain situations keep happening or repeating in your life, why you keep attracting the same type of people, why certain fear keeps following you, why you feel different from those around you, why some things that once made sense to you no longer make sense to you anymore. That is often when awakening begins. Not with spirits, not with visions, not with awareness, because a lot of people that are even awakened, they don't even know the type of gifts they possess or things that they have. Think about it this way. Imagine someone keeps entering a relationship with people who disrespect them, and then the relationship ends and another one starts again, and the same thing keeps happening over and over again. Then one day, then you stop asking, like, why is it that this thing keeps happening to me? That moment you begin to ask that question, that is when your awakening begin. It means that you are now becoming aware of yourself. You are now beginning to read patterns. You're now beginning to see that, okay, there is a problem. Something is wrong somewhere, because why is it that I keep attracting that same person? When you were not asking questions, you were not awakened, you were not even experiencing awakening. But once you started to ask that question, your awakening already began. Because awakening starts when you stop blaming everything also outside yourself. And then you start paying attention to what your life is trying to show you, that okay, you're being too easy for people to use. You're being too accommodating for people to stamp on, or you're just accepting anyhow person just because, okay, maybe this person tells you I'll cheat to, or I'll do this to you, and then you just accept them like that because you did not have a choice. But when you're waking, you begin to understand that, okay, I'm not blaming this person because they did this thing to me. I'm looking into myself, and then I'm trying to correct this thing about me. Like, this is what I want for myself, and this is what I don't want for myself. Many people want awakening, but they don't want to discover themselves. They don't want self-discovery. And this is how it happens. Everything awakening is not just about the spiritual aspect, like I said before. It's about your emotional side and also your physical side. You need to discover yourself. You need to have a self-discovery of yourself before you can say you're already in the awakening process. You want a spiritual gift, you want messages, you want powers, but you don't want to sit down with yourself. You don't want to heal from the things that have hurt you. You don't want to change your habits or change things about you, things that brought you to that thing that is making you to experience those things that you're experiencing. Yeah, those things are part of awakening. Those things are the beginning and the foundation of awakening. Sometimes awakening is realizing that you have been living for other people's approval. You wait until somebody says, do this thing or do that thing before you can do it. You cannot stand on your own. Sometimes awakening is also realizing that your biggest enemy is fear. When you're afraid to take a step, you're afraid to do things for yourself. Sometimes also awakening is like realizing that The life that you're living is not the life that is truly for you. Just because you see that people are doing things, you're doing the things that your friends are doing, listening to peer pressures and all that, you're not looking into yourself, looking inward into yourself. And sometimes awakening is realizing that you have spent years ignoring your own voice. Sometimes before bad things will happen to you, your forces already came and showed it to you, or maybe you are in that relationship, you're already seeing that. Why is it that anytime I dream this person, I'm getting somebody, and I dream I see this thing keeps happening? Like they're already communicating with you and showing you things, but you're not aware of yourself, you're not looking into yourself, you don't know who you are, you don't know what you possess. People often keep asking, what causes an awakening? How do I awaken? What causes awakening? The truth is that awakening can begin in different ways. Everybody has a way that they experience awakening. Okay. Some people, it starts after you lose a loved one. Like me, myself, a few years ago, my awakening started when I lost my dad. That was how I started to experience awakening. I started to question a lot of things around me, even though some of those things was not related to my dad. I started to question a lot of things. I started to, undergo some things, and I begin to see things, and I became aware of my environment and things I was experiencing. For others, it can start after an heartbreak. Maybe you have a strong heartbreak. For some people, it starts with maybe a major disappointment in life, while some, maybe they crashed, like they started from grass to grace, and then they started to, you know, experience awakening through isolation. And some people, it is after they succeed in something. So everybody has their own ways they experience awakening, because some people finally achieve, when they finally achieve, something, that is when they will now begin to see that there's something still inside of them that is empty. There's something that they are not doing. That emptiness forces them to start asking, deeper questions. And other people too, they begin to ask questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What am I meant to do? What truly matters to me? Take it or leave it. Everybody has experienced this one way or the other. People that have experienced awakening, because it also happened to me, and I can use this as an example to tell you that this is how awakening starts. Awakening is not always comfortable. In fact, sometimes it is very uncomfortable. Trust me, every phase of your life, you always go through awakening, because awakening often, it destroys illusion. It forces you to see things clearly, things about yourself that you never noticed before, things about other people that you still never noticed before, even people that you thought were for you, things about your life, things you may have spent years avoiding, things that you did not even notice about yourself. That is why some people feel lost during awakening. That is why it is like, are you going mad, or are you lost? You're not lost. This is awakening for you. Mhm. Because that time you begin to see life differently, you begin to see things differently for the first time. Imagine someone walking through a dark room for years, then suddenly a light just comes on in that room. Do you understand? It will feel strange to you at first. Everything will look different because the room changed, though. But because you can finally see everything inside that room, that is how awakening is. That is what awakening feels like. Very important in this topic. Okay. This thing I want to talk about, because a lot of people keep asking, they want to know how they can awaken. They see teachings, they see a lot of things online about awakening and spirituality, but they've never experienced anything that has to do with awakening. Okay, so the question is, can awakening be forced? My answer is no. Awakening cannot be forced, but you can create a space for it. Yes, you can create a space for awakening. If you have never experienced it before, you can create a space for it. So, how can you create a space for awakening? By becoming aware. What do I mean by becoming aware? Becoming aware is like paying attention to your life. Okay, pay attention to how you react to things. Pay attention to your emotions. Pay attention to your dreams, especially your dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to the things that keep repeating in your life. Okay, pay attention to the lesson that life keep teaching you. If the same problem keeps showing up, there is always a lesson attached to it. Know this today. If the same type of person keep appearing in your life, there's usually something that you need to understand. That is why that same kind of people keep coming into your life. If there is something like you're having this feeling always returning to you over and over again about something, there is usually something that is asking for your attention that you need to pay your full attention to. Another thing that helps awakening is honesty. Hmm? Real honesty. Not the kind where you tell other people the truth. The kind where you tell yourself the truth. This is what I'm talking about. The truth about what you want for your life, the truth about what scares you, the truth about what hurts you, the truth about what needs to change in your life, even when you're with people or you keep seeing things repeat in your life. Because awakening cannot happen when there's self-deception. When you're lying to yourself, you cannot awaken. And let me say something that may surprise some people. Not every dream, not every dream, sorry, means awakening. Not every spiritual experiences means awakening. Not every sign means awakening. Some people become obsessed with signs, and you need to change that about yourself. Because people are talking about seeing 111, 222, 333, doesn't mean that every 111, 222, 333 you see, or every bed that you see means something or means that it is a coincidence. No. Sometimes 111 is just 111. 222 is just 222. Meanwhile, you are ignoring the actual lesson that is happening in your life. Look inward of you. Look at things around you. Awakening is not about chasing signs. It's not about chasing symbols or animals that you see or all the dreams you dream means that it is your awakening. No, it's about understanding yourself. Hmm? The more you understand yourself, the more things will be clear to you, the more everything will begin to make sense to you when you begin to put one and two together. So if you're asking me how to awaken, this is my answer. One is learn about yourself, observe yourself, okay? Question your patterns, heal your wounds, be honest with yourself, pay attention to life. Pay attention to the lessons that keep repeating in your life. And most importantly, stop looking outside yourself for every answers, because awakening is not about becoming someone else. Awakening is not about becoming someone else. I'm saying it again. Awakening is about becoming aware of who you really are. And many times, awakening begins the moment you stop running from yourself and finally you decide to understand yourself, understand who you are. That is where the real journey begins. Some of you don't even need spiritual work. You just need to understand yourself. You just need to understand who you are. You just need to know what works for you. It is not magic. You just need to know what works for you. You just need to understand yourself. You just need to understand the patterns, the things that life is bringing your way for you to learn your lesson from. Some of you, everything you want is just marriage, 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 marriage. This one will come, you will eat you. That one will come, you will eat you. And then you keep choking your. You need to understand that it might not even be that marriage that life wants you to focus on. Maybe it is something else you need to focus on. But because you do not understand yourself, you are not looking inward. You think awakening is when you see vision or when things begin to appear to you or when you see 111 and 222, and then you begin to still force yourself on marriage, marriage, marriage. And at the end of the day, it will crash. Look into yourself. Know what works for you. If you try marriage, if it doesn't work for you, leave it. If you try business, it doesn't work for you, leave it. If you try another thing, it doesn't work for you, leave it. Understand what works for you. Try to look inward, look into yourself, and know what works for you. And know what you do best that fits you, that makes you shine, that makes you comfortable. And then you begin to understand that yes, you are now aware of yourself. You're now becoming awakened, because awakening journey, awakening does not end. Everybody pass through different stages of awakening. We always learn, unlearn to relearn. You learn, unlearn to relearn all the time. I am still in my awakening journey. I cannot tell you that I have finished or I have completed my awakening journey. So it is a process. It is things that keep coming. You keep learning. You keep knowing more about yourself. Okay? So know and learn more about yourself. Understand yourself. This is awakening. Nothing is far from this. And this is the truth. And this is where I'm going to end this topic for today. And this is where I'm going to end this topic for today.